Hello, welcome to our bi-weekly dev stream. I'm a little shook because we had a whole bunch of technical issues. It was, as you can see with the camera right now that's flickering, Windows update hit us and ruined everything and destroyed a whole bunch of our drivers and HB had to do some registry magic and it was a whole thing.
And it still didn't fix
And it
everything.
still hasn't fixed everything, as you can see
Yeah.
with this camera.
But we're pushing it forward anyway, so
Yep.
the-
No,
that's the
this is the
Foxhole
Foxhole
way.
way. Yeah, exactly.
you just got to keep rolling with it.
But I think we have some neat stuff. Some neat stuff this week. It's funny because Mark always was saying this last week that this is like a small patch coming up.
In comparison to the last one.
Well, I mean, in fairness, it is like
You can say that.
I guess first of all, are we gonna do?
Oh yeah, let's do an
introductions?
intro. My name is Matt. This is HB, and that's Mark. And we do this once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we talk about
Talk
Foxhole
about
stuff.
Foxhole stuff.
Yeah, because we work on Foxhole, so
And flickering cameras.
yeah.
All right,
so getting back to this update, it is like yes, there's a lot of stuff, but I think you're definitely feeling it, Matt, because maps,
It's all map stuff.
a lot of map stuff. Map stuff.
Map stuff. People have said in the office that they literally just call me Map.
That always happens. That always happens in our meetings. Like, have you talked to Map yet? It's like, maybe. So yeah, it's this update I think is like small, medium to small. Doesn't mean it's not important, but definitely compared to like some of the stuff earlier this year, it's more manageable. And we also got we're slowly getting our development pipeline more streamlined so that we can handle having a larger team, because it's kind of crazy, but we've grown from 7 to 13 in a matter of like half a year or so.
Yep.
And we're definitely feeling sort of the rough edges in the process, and having to kind of change things up in the way we do certain things. So even though on the outside it seems like not much has changed, actually a lot has changed on the inside. In fact, we had to like rearrange the office a couple of weeks ago to fit in the extra heads and just making sure that our office isn't too much of a mess.
It's easy. to make that happen.
Yeah, so it's a lot in terms of the pipeline. The way we do testing has changed, has gotten more smooth over the last couple of releases. It's not as much of a panic at the last minute anymore, and we hope things will get a little better. I mean, there's always going to be the panic releases, but
Panic releases.
hopefully that will be only a couple of times a year and not like every single update. So
I don't think I ever met a single developer that says, no, updates and releases are just fine, not stressful at all.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I guess from that standpoint, 013 is almost ready to go, and we were gonna launch it tomorrow, but the conquest is still going on, so we're gonna have to wait until that's over before we push out 013. So
You guys want an update?
yeah, you better
And
finish
the
this
war.
right? So
Fight hard.
and then we're also like moving on to working on 014. So that's been kind of exciting too, because 014 is going to be a really big update. That will be a real big update, Matt.
That'll be a really big update and still include just as much work probably for
Yeah,
me.
so we'll talk about that a bit later in the stream, but that's kind of what's up, right?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride for me. I think everyone else in the office is just like, but I feel like I've touched every map in the game for this update, so you guys hopefully will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Some of you have seen some of the stuff already in Dev Branch.
Yeah, and thanks for all the feedback. I think the feedback we've gotten in the dev branch has been really helpful, and I think I mentioned in the last couple of days, a couple of times at the office, I just kind of randomly shouted out like, "Hey, I don't know what we do without
Dev Branch.
the dev branch," because the maps especially, there's just so much going on in there that getting that test coverage and sort of like, it's not only just like test coverage, but it's the feedback on the balance. Things will slip through the cracks, and You guys know the game so well, right? So all the feedback we got there on the AT rifle and on the maps, and it's just been really useful. So
Just to look behind the scenes a little bit, like you guys, it's sometimes it's quite hard for like it's mostly me and Mark that do like map balancing on World Conquest. So sometimes stuff is gonna get past us. I do think that the dead branch is one of my favorite parts of the process because it catches everything. But let's move on and let's see what's next. Also, so that we can get this camera off the screen. Goodbye, camera. Community highlights. HP, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a new one coming up soon. It's not up yet, but Crazy Frying Chicken is finishing up, and I just picked a few things that really jumped up to me. First of all, these two designs for like battleships, one for a warden and one for a colonial. I think they're pretty sweet. I like the way that they are, like the fact that Bogdan, I think the name is Russian, so I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, decided to create both of them at the same time. And they're pretty different, and I think they have like their own silhouette. But you can see how powerful these things could be. I have no idea where you would be able to navigate those, considering that we don't have open waters.
We have Farnock Coast, Emma Shore.
Do you think it's big enough to
Weathered
fit?
Expanse.
Do you think it's big enough to fit like a whole battleship?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny because recently we were talking about what the scale should be for our water vehicles, and I don't think there's anything. The sort of range of scales we talked about were very far from this, which is kind of interesting, right? Like we kind of want to make sure you can see everything on the screen. We have a chance to kind of like steer, but it's kind of funny. I think there's always been talk from the community and inside the team of like larger type of vessels. I mean, we haven't figured out how we might do that, but it's interesting, right? I think everyone has like thought of it at some point.
Yeah. I particularly think it would be really sweet. Like this is obviously so big that it wouldn't fit on your own screen, but having that and maybe you as a crew having to have other people around double checking things, making sure you're not bumping into it, like it is sort of a team play exercise in many ways. So it was a neat idea. Next one we have. Oh, this is pretty sweet.
Oh, this is so
these
cool.
are cool.
Yeah.
I think these are paper or like some sort of bristle board or something.
That's really awesome.
And it is so neat. And you guys can see it's just 3 inches size-wise for the people that actually use real measurements.
Yeah.
It's about 9 centimeters.
So it's like a miniature.
The people that use real measurements.
Yeah, 8.
Because we use fake measurements.
You guys use like whatever, it's called barley combs, based on barley combs or something like that.
In Canada, to be fair, we don't use. You're right. I'm not talking into the microphone. In Canada, we use centimeters and
Officially, but nobody actually uses them
because we have to deal with the U.S.
It makes my life so much harder. But yeah, no, I think this was so cool. Like when I saw it, I was so.
It's like, is it going to be painted?
Excited. I don't know. I just
or like,
saw,
is it paintable? Like, are these types of these?
if you put
models?
like you can put coat even if it's paper. I've done lots of things with paper before. If you can coat it up so that you can paint.
Yeah.
And then you can put some varnish on top, and it looks really sweet.
That's really sweet.
And this one is a really cool model.
If you guys don't know, HP is like a master origamiist. Is that the right word? Origamier?
Origamist. I have no idea. Folder.
Paper folder.
He's a professional paper folder. Yeah.
But I think this would, like, my question is, does it articulate?
This one doesn't. I'm for sure. I can.
You can see
the top one, the turret. Yes, but I can say for sure that not the treads. No, not like this. It doesn't look like it. But there are ways that we can make this move. Talk to me, Hans. We'll work this out. We'll workshop this out.
Cool. No,
This is so cool.
awesome. This is the first of this type of thing.
Yeah.
We've seen some miniatures of the characters. I don't know if maybe we've seen some of the vehicles, but we've definitely never seen one made with paper in this way,
No
right?
papercraft so far. We haven't
No
seen
papercraft,
papercraft of any sort, and this is the first one, and this is like really, really impressive, and I'm really, really happy to see it.
Cool.
Next we have, oh yeah, okay. Once again, he's in the community highlights because this guy is he's like blowing a lot of people out of the water. He does like so many different kinds of media, and
This is really, really small.
since he liked our painting last time, like since we liked the painting last time, he decided to do it again. It's a tiny warden soldier, like a tiny painting, and it's just really cool. I don't know.
This is like the theme is like miniature artworks. That's the theme of this community highlights. Like, how small can you get it? And
Yes.
the next time it's going to be even smaller. It's
With the
gonna be like
exception
a
of
little-
the giant
Battleship.
yeah, except for the battleship. No, that's cool.
Yeah, so now next time for the challenge is to make a colonial painting or a warden painting the size of a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's the challenge.
Yeah, the challenge has been
Issued.
been issued. Yeah, that's the word.
And last but not least, it's just a meme, but it's so well done, and I loved it. Lurkas recreated the comics, like everything is on fire. It's fine, but for both colonials and wardens.
That's cool.
And this is it's based on the original one, but it's his art. So
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty sweet.
I mean, it's good to see something from Lurkus again.
Yeah.
I think it's been a while. So
It's been a while.
yeah.
Also, like you had to put this in here because you're in it.
Of course, I know. It's worth it just for that. I would got points just for that. Yeah, no. So check out the community highlights. It's coming up soon, later this week. KFC is just like wrapping it up, and continue to submit. We look at all the stuff. We love seeing it, and hopefully, if it's cool, we will put it on. I will put it on this community highlights snippets. And next one is
So really, you got to impress HB. That's what we're.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like I'm very bribable.
Well, first you have to impress KFC, then you have to be extra impressive.
It's like a two-tiered.
Yeah.
Bribery.
Yeah. It's a one tier and then another tier of bribery.
Yeah.
He is
Basically.
He's the larger fielder. I'm the smaller one.
Just a random question, Matt.
What's that?
Speaking of community stuff, actually I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, so I'm just not going to ask you.
No, just let's go. Let's do it.
Because you're going to be mad at me after it's.
No, I know exactly what you're going to ask, and the answer is yes.
Okay, so are we supposed to talk about it or?
We can.
Okay, I mean it'd be good to just talk about it quickly, and if you get it right, because we don't even know yet if we're talking about the same thing.
I'm
right?
assuming that you're talking about some contest winnings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
HG's confused. Like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
just so you guys know, the contest winner, Patchouli, one of their prizes, I suppose, was to work with me to get some lore in the game. So look out for that in.
There's gonna be patchouli lore.
0.13, yes.
Yeah.
So
0.13. Whoever finds it first will not get a prize, but it'll
except
be cool.
for Patchouli, who knows where
Yeah.
it is. So
That's awesome. I didn't know it was coming up on this update. Actually,
well, I don't think it was supposed to, but
You snuck it in.
I snuck it in. So.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that's exciting. Yeah,
That's really really cool.
cool.
Next one, are we going for development update?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
So, just gonna be talking about what we're working on, what's gonna be coming up soon on the horizon. So we don't have any major content to reveal today, but we do have this cool map.
Oh yeah.
That I forgot I put in these slides, but we kind of sent out various versions of this to the community over the last week, but this is sort of a more final version, at least for now, that I think is pretty cool. I think it was worth throwing into this stream. And I know you had a huge hand in working on this as well, Matt.
Yeah, so this is like a combination of the working version of the world map that's in the game now and the concept world map that I made quite some time ago. I think the concept one has far more, like, it's zoomed out a lot more, but this is to get, I think, a bridge between those two and a little bit more closer to the actual, like, regions and spaces in the game, because obviously concept art is, you know, meant for like changing later, basically. I just think it's really cool. I think it's a lot more like a map as opposed to graphic, which I think our previous approach was very graphic.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Adam, was also did a lot of work on this one. A lot of props go to him, so I can see how we can integrate this into the game, because I think it would look considerably better than the one that we have in game, with changes that are necessary so it can work in game. But I think it would be really sweet to have this in game as your actual map, world map.
Yeah, I think it's I think kind of when it comes to Foxhole, I think things that remind us of like physical, like history and physical things tend to, like, we've experimented with a couple different approaches at a few different times, and I think that physicality tends to lend the game a little better in my experience, and this is a really good example of that, because I think it adds a little bit more character, a little bit more flavor, and like the concept art map I did was a lot more based on like Lord of the Rings, which is like kind of interesting on its own, but it doesn't really have that turn of the century kind of flavor that I think we were looking for as well.
Yeah.
And then neither does the graphic one. The graphic one just kind of feels like a video game.
Yeah.
And so I think this bridges those really nicely.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Cool. Yeah, no, I hope we can definitely get some of these visuals in so that the travel screen can.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're looking to update that travel screen at some point, anyways. And there's a whole bunch of issues with that. It's been functional since we launched into one world, but it's definitely kind of like breaking at the seams. So
yeah, we already know, like,
there's a lot of problems with it,
particularly with the like skirmishes and stuff like that. We know it's not ideal the way it is right now.
Yeah, it's also like I think one of the big things about it, there's a lot of pain points for new players in terms of like directing them to the right place. It was sort of started off like really bad, and then we kind of helped a bit by adding the highlighting, but then that in turn has caused some other problems, which we're looking, which we have some short-term fixes for now, but we're looking to make that better, because for a lot of new players, you know, they come in the game and where we send them first is like really important, but a lot of times we're probably sending them to the wrong place, or where it's not good for a new player, and then they end up having a frustrating experience, which, you know, like, it's on us to fix that, right? So yeah, it's something we hope to make better.
And I also think it's worth just saying, like, we will continue to improve this stuff, and like the hope this goes to show that we're constantly like thinking about how we can better communicate things.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important.
Cool. So just gonna talk about the updates that we're working on, what's coming. 013, not gonna say too much about it because you guys already know what's coming there. If you've taken a look at the dev branch, the release notes for that went out the door last week, and we made a couple more changes after that. So you can always check it out there. There is one real important change that's coming to 013 that I thought I had in this list, but I forgot, is the persistent spawn points. So you know, it sounds like a small, you know, it's not a flashy change, but it is a big deal, because right now, as soon as you cross over into another region, if you border travel, you lose your spawn point, and that has obviously caused a lot of pain, has made the border incursions a lot harder than they need to be. So now you can set a spawn point basically like anywhere. You can be in Weathered Expanse and travel all the way to Westgate, and then if you die in Westgate, there'll be an option on the death screen that will allow you to spawn back to your fob in Weathered Expanse. So it doesn't matter where your spawn point is set, as long as there are soldier supplies there, you can spawn back. So hopefully, I actually personally feel that's one of one of the biggest changes in 013, and I'm excited about how that might help.
I was messing around with that during testing yesterday, and it was exciting.
Yeah.
It seems small, but I think it makes a big deal in like usability.
Because like before, I played a lot in the previous conquest, and there's nothing worse than crossing the border and then dying and then having to respawn back at your port base and then having to walk for like 10 minutes or something. It's it's pretty, it's not great. So
exactly.
And I think the thing I like the most about this change is that the least amount of special case rules that we have in the game, the better it is. Like we tend to, there's always a battle between like making the next big thing work and making it work naturally, like having things follow the natural like rule set of the game. And this spawn point thing was one of those very like weird magical, like, oh well, this is a special case if you die in the enemy region or in a remote region, it doesn't you don't naturally get back to your spawn point, right? But now it's like literally following the exact same rule. You spawn back, it consumes a soldier supply, and as much as possible we want the game to be like that. And I know there are other areas of the game that have this problem that hopefully we can fix one day, but I'm happy that we fix this one. So
we're constantly like we've almost got this like balance, and on one side no one can see my hand gestures, but on one side we have magic, and on the other side we have natural, and we're always trying to push more on the natural side, but obviously like that's not 100% possible, and I think we've got a long way to go to get to the natural side, but
cool,
I think we're getting there.
And then 014 is going to be that's the next thing. That's what we're working full time on right now. And one of the things is, so I'm not actually going to talk about like specific things, like features in detail, but just at a very high level, this is almost like a map of like what the what the features will be, but the actual like specifics of those features, we're actually going to be revealing them in the next couple of weeks once 013 is up the door. So we're not going to say exactly what the content is, but we're just going to give you like a high level overview. So we're finally going to be going back and revisiting some of the water stuff. We took a break from that because we felt that there's a whole bunch of other more important things in the game to be working on, and but now with the North-South Conquest change, it's only natural that we want to be working on the water stuff again. So that's the first thing. There's going to be more stuff done on the vehicle side. We are going to be going back to revamp one of the existing vehicles. And we're also going to be introducing a new vehicle. And this new vehicle it's not, you guys might be thinking, oh, you guys are adding another vehicle so fast. But this isn't like it's not a fluff vehicle. It's not, it's something that's actually like going to fix something that, but we hope is going to fix something very specific in the game, which is why we're introducing it. It's not there for like a cool factor. It's there to solve a specific problem.
It's really cool.
I think it's cool as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is cool as well.
Don't like undersell it. It's pretty cool.
Right, but I'm just trying to say that it's not like one of those. Wouldn't it be cool if there's a such and such, and then we just do it, even though it's not really.
This one is like,
right now.
We need this vehicle.
We need this vehicle. Yeah. So.
This is to like fix a problem and simultaneously be cool, because.
Yeah. Cool. We're finally going to be putting in the observation towers, and we have also a very specific reason for doing that as well. Matt and I were just kind of like talking about this, and we have a really cool reason to be bringing this in at this point in time. And New World Conquest region, so this one's going to be kind of cool. We're actually going to be expanding the World Conquest. We're going to be adding one more region, and I think not going to get too far into it, but I think that's going to it's going to change things up a lot. So I think it's going to be cool. And large skirmish map. So this is another thing that we've been working on in the background is that we're constantly working on skirmish, and one of our goals is to make sure that skirmish feels as much possible still like the Foxhole experience that you know. So what we're going to try to do is make at least some of the skirmish maps feel more like Foxhole Classic type of scale. So you know, I think one of the things with skirmish right now is that because they're all like small maps, if you come in at that point and you play the game, you do miss that sense of scale that is just so important to Foxhole. And you know, just thinking back to when we used to have the weekly wars, or I guess it's not really specific to the weekly wars, but just that scale of war. I think like at all times you should be able to play a version of Foxhole that has that level of scale. And I think that skirmish, I think, you know, at least for now, like we will keep around like some of the maps small. So that side is still going to be there. Like in the near term, I think Fisherman's Row, you know, is going to be there. But we definitely need to make sure that at all times you can play like the large scale game. So
because I think that's like what, like, to criticize Tempest Island, I think that's what Foxhole is not a small like deathmatch game basically, and I think it's felt the worst in Tempest Island because it's so tiny.
Like I always complain about this about that map, is that one of the things that is special with Foxhole is that when you are and you know, and this isn't to like, I think for like the community events and stuff, a map like Tempest Island is great. I think it's found some really great uses there. So definitely not saying anything bad about that. But in terms of the kind of the core Foxhole experience, right? You always need to feel like there's something else happening on the other side of the world or on the other side of the map that is different from what you're doing, right? And I think that those smaller maps really lack that element. Like, you know, the first time you played Foxhole Classic, if you step into like the Deadlands and you're at like, you're at one side of the Deadlands, and you know that on the other side, like, you know, if you're at Sun's Hollow or something, you know that over in like
Callahan's Gate.
At Callahan's Gate, something else could be happening there, and you just have that sense of like scale, right?
And I think above all else, like choice in like, you know, attack and defend angles are really important. Pipelines and supply lines, that stuff is in my opinion is really important.
Yeah, exactly. Like there shouldn't just be one choice for your supply line, at least as much as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyways, 014 is going to be a pretty big update. 013 is kind of going to set some of that stuff up, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting next month or two, right? So cool. Yep. This is a big one that I forgot.
I didn't mention because I thought you had removed. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a big one.
Yeah. New communication tool. So we've been working on a big change. And you guys knew that we've been talking about improving the communication tools in the game, and we've sort of taken the time to try to figure out what we think is the optimal tool in like organizing all kinds of different players, right? From clan players to randoms, and we sort of thought through all the. I think the approach we took when working on this new tool is, one, we took a close look at what people are trying to do already, right? Yeah. So like we're not going out to the left field and being like, let's just go and like reinvent how people play Foxhole. In fact, a lot of this is like based on how people already play Foxhole and the things that they're already trying to do with the crude tools that are there right now. And let's give them stronger tools to do that same thing, and let's make sure that all players can participate in those tools, and not just it being restricted to certain players, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that you want to say about that one. I know you're heavily involved there.
Yeah, well, we want to make sure that we don't screw anything up in the way that like things that are already there, we don't want to take away any possibilities, and we want to make sure that whatever you guys are doing, even if it's outside the game, we want to see if we can migrate it to the game in a cohesive way, so they can all work together. You guys have an easier time organizing and working together and make sure and finding people online in the game to play, and that not only you do that, but you also can communicate and what you're doing, what is the plan, and what you guys are doing to the other players as well in a how can I say, in an easy way. I think that's important. We're really worried about ease of use.
Yeah, we're worried about the ease of use, and we're also taking the time to make sure that it, I don't want to oversell it because it's, there's always like a danger of that. But
Yeah.
but our goal was to make the tool a rich tool and not like a shallow tool. Which sometimes in the past we sort of just went for like the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
And like we're gonna make this in steps too, like always. But it is more rich than most tools that we put in the game. So hopefully without
the double asterisk there.
Without overhyping it, I don't want to oversell it. So never mind. It's just a small feature.
It's just a small time. Just communication.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. Cool. That's it. I don't think there's anything after that.
No, I think that's it.
All right, guys, it is that time. Ask some questions, and I will ask them to the lads here, and we'll hopefully get some answers. People haven't asked questions, so
they haven't asked questions.
Nobody's asked questions yet.
Oh, okay, cool. No questions.
Okay, PFC Bandit asks a really hard question. Can we expect a massive game engine overhaul, a new engine perhaps? Current engine seems limited in regards to scale of war. Sorry for laughing.
No, this is a hard question. I kind of answered this last time in a vague way, and I'll just sort of like repeat what I said last time for all the new listeners, right? Is that we've scaled up the team, right? And we're working on more things than the things that we talk about specifically on the stream. And it's always been our long-term goal our dream from the beginning of this project was to have hundreds and hundreds of players all in a seamless world, and exactly like how you imagine it should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a studio, we're basically like reinvesting all our resources. All the success we had on Foxhole is being reinvested back into Foxhole, back into this vision. And all I can say is that we don't intend to stay with any limitations, within any kind of limitations that we have now. And that's kind of all I have to say about it.
But just why is it so funny is because like you usually don't change an engine in the like second half of a project.
Yeah.
But to be fair, on our previous project, we did change our engines, but it was in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. Changing an engine is extremely difficult. You basically have to rewrite your game from scratch, and it usually takes a year or two. And if you're actually actively developing a game, it makes it even more difficult because you kind of have to catch up to yourself, and there's all kinds of problems with that.
But that to be said, we don't take the engine as it is out of the box. They're highly customized already.
Yeah,
and
there's also like a mid ground. There's also another answer to that question, and that is that you can modify the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Because they give you the full source code, and quite frankly, we've already modified it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more that we can do that we intend to spend time doing, and even beyond any sort of like longer term type of work that we're doing, there is sort of like midterm work where we can squeeze out more from what we got right now, right? And then at the same time, while we're on this topic, there's also improvements that you automatically get with the Unreal Engine, especially with games like Fortnite that are using the Unreal Engine, obviously made by the same team as the engine, right? So any kind of improvements, and they're operating, like Fortnite is like 100 players or something,
Yeah.
and
it's like 100 players with like Twitch combat. So
yeah, and we've had we've had some like conversations with some people on their team, and we know that their goal is to get as much improvements as they can from Fortnite down to the Unreal Engine, so that basically anyone can benefit, right?
Yeah, this is the beauty of using an engine like Unreal, in which everything trickles down, whatever they do for their games.
Yeah.
Not everything, obviously, but there's a lot of what they do and all the tools that they develop for their game that comes to us.
If you can convince Fortnite to support 1,000 players, then I think we're good.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so there's been a couple of questions regarding towns. I don't know all the names, but one person asked, will we see bigger towns? Another person said, is the town revamp still coming? There's been a few inquiries about that. Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Some of the, we've been in conversations and trying to figure out like, what kinds of things we can do, and slowly working on it. And even in the background, there's been little things happening in the map design side, which I won't get too into, but that have been experiments about like, what do we want to do, and like, how can we support that in the future? We are actively developing the game, so at some point we're going to start to see the towns shift.
Yeah. And I think in terms of like, not even talking about the gameplay or like layouts of the town or like the architecture or anything like that, Matt, I think that like sort of a sign of things to come is some of the increase in fidelity on like the rocks and on some of the trees and stuff like that. I think that that's sort of a sign of where things are going. And when we go to revamp the towns, I think you can expect something similar, like a similar jump, if not even more of a jump.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but it's exciting, especially for me, since I've been, kind of using the same tools to build towns for quite some time. The prospect is very exciting for me, and it's definitely something we're working on. It's just like a lot of people say, like, we try not to like just add content for content's sake. We need to work in a certain order. Like, there are things that need to go in the game first and get fixed and updated in the game first before just towns, because as they function, they could just be more interesting and more valuable to the actual overall game experience. So let's ask another question. So that trooper asks, with the Unreal Engine scalable to other platforms, have we thought about releasing on other platforms?
Oh, that's a good question.
The Unreal Engine on itself, yeah.
The Unreal Engine, yes. The Unreal Engine runs on mobile, runs on consoles. In fact, our last game was shipped on console. And we don't have any immediate plans because we think that focusing on the PC right now is what we want to do. We want to make sure that the users playing it on PC right now are going to get our focus, right?
Yeah.
And we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. If we went to console right now, sure, we might get more sales, but the game's not ready, right? The game needs to be a lot better. We'd rather focus on making the game a lot better for the users that we have than trying to go out and getting a lot more users on these other platforms, right? So that's our goal. I mean, it'd be kind of cool though. I mean, like, what's an interesting thing is, this is a little bit like off topic, but at GDC this year, the Unreal Engine team was talking about how they're seeing changes in mobile where high fidelity games are going to mobile, right? And I think there's Fortnite and PUBG, I think, has a mobile client, and I tried it out. It has its issues, right? Like, obviously playing a game on a small screen is a little clunky, and like your network performance is not going to be there, right? but these games are top games, like top chart games, right? Top charts that used to be dominated by games like Clash of Clans and things like that. Like these high fidelity PC console games
Yeah.
are making their way down to these
Yeah,
platforms.
well,
And
Fortnite is already like the top selling app in
that's
on
right.
iOS right
which
now.
is which is kind of exciting if you think about it. That like, you know, it's not something that we're gonna do anytime soon, but you know, just a random thought crossed my mind. It'd be pretty cool, you know, in some like pie in the sky future, right? Where like you could just hop on a tablet and play some Foxhole and like do some Logi or something.
Yeah, you might need some adjustments. Control wise, might not be the easiest game to render itself to mobile or to consoles.
Yeah.
But the same way, I think, for instance, one thing that you have to take out of it, for instance, is when you see Diablo 3, regardless of your opinion on Diablo 3, of is it a quality game or not, is that the way they did the port to a console was very successful. They changed just enough so it was accessible, but without changing the core game and without changing the core loop and anything. It felt great, and I think it would be as a game designer, it would be an interesting problem to solve as well. How to approach Foxhole the way it is for a console, and even more how to approach Foxhole to mobile.
Yeah, that one was an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, I was playing on mobile. I was playing Dofus, you know, that RPG.
Yeah.
Like I love Wakfu and I love Dofus, but like the thing is, like they didn't change the visuals.
Yeah.
So it was like very hard for me to like find small. So that's the kind of things that it would be interesting to workshop.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about things like Baldur's Gate and like Shadowrun on mobile. I tried to play them, but they're like these dense like CRPGs that like are
and I'm sure
very
there are
hard.
ways,
Like it works, but I think with Foxhole, I'm sure we'd want to make it like more like functional. And,
I mean the one thing about like mobile and a game like Foxhole, right? Or I guess where it relates to what we're trying to do, right? So it's not even specific to like the idea of translating the game you see.
But you can do some Foxhole things in a different app.
Exactly, because it's like the idea of, and ultimately the idea of like a persistent war is like it's always on, right? And I think that's why even like we spend so much time on like the war API. Like you can see the map, you can see the war even when you're not in the game, and I think extending that to mobile in some way, in you know, at some point in the future, is in line with what we're trying to do. Now I don't know if
we ever have time,
but you know, I think that's cool.
It would be really sweet. You can just, you know, you can do some logi on your phone, and then you hop into the computer, and then everything is ready, and then you just go do some combat. It would be really, really sweet. Even sweet. Simple things like driving, if you're like a truck driver, that would be perfect for mobile. Like you just drive people back and forth. That would be so sweet. Anyway.
Right. So I'm going to ask two more questions. I have them both already queued up. The first one is any opinions on the FOB spam meta?
Yes.
Yeah. We have strong opinions.
I specifically wanted to ask that question.
Yeah. So we're.
Sorry, and this comes from Pico.
I'm assuming this is like a negative, like this is like a complaint, right?
I don't know. It's your opinion.
All right. Okay. Well, in fact, No, I'm just kidding. No, FOB spam is a problem, and believe me, it's at the top of our list. And believe me, we actually implemented some changes in 0.13 at first, but we pulled them out at the last minute because of some corner cases that we thought of, and we didn't want to have movement there until we were sure, because we don't want to, because that whole area of the game, like the AI defenses, you know, Foxhole spam, basically, it is such a, it's like a sensitive area of the game, and we don't want to just start like making changes when we're not sure. So we did work on some things, and we decided to reevaluate, but I think there will be something in 0.14. It's bothering us as much as it's bothering you guys, if that answers the question.
We see like the maps with just like The FOB is like
Yeah.
all the way around
We
like
hate
the
that.
borders, and it boils my blood to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. This is one that I think people really want to hear something about. So this is why it's the last question. When do we think there will be improvements to logi and building from a mechanical standpoint?
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna be giving any love to that area of the game aside from like just some communication tools? Like,
You mean like Harvester or things like that, or
I think it's more just
Yeah.
like to make it part of a more engaging part of the game.
So we have done some game design work in that area. We've done some concepting. We've like evaluated some things, and we're still like evaluating those things. And it's definitely a
I think it's worth mentioning that it's an extremely complex part of the game that's hard to just like up and change.
even though it is kind of high priority for us because we know that like half of our game, if not 60%, is logi in one way, shape, or form.
It's definitely, it's not as critical. Like, I guess to put it into perspective on like the priority things, right? Like we got the near term stuff, like, addressing the fob span as an example. And then not too far beyond that, I think that probably sometime this summer, we're going to take a look at some substantial changes there, or some substantial features to add to the depth of logi and to sort of like fill out that area of the game a bit more. And yeah, so
do you have any thoughts about specifically building as well? Because I know that's like a big concern with people in the chat.
Building, like
any improvements to the actual like building part of the game, from like scrapping to building to like basically hammer gameplay.
Oh, basically hammer game. Yeah, no, there's
just to sort of to either
so
reassure.
It's the same answer. We've done some game design work there. I mean, I was looking at some stuff just like 2 weeks ago, and had to like set it aside. But it's a priority, right? It's gonna be. I think something's gonna happen in that area this summer. Maybe late summer. To make a wild guess, right?
So like I do just want to and the reason that I brought this up is that I do want to reiterate to everybody that like if we could just like change that and it would work, we probably would. But because it's kind of like it will throw out the entire balance if we change like the speed of scrapping or like it's a really touchy like topic in terms of like gameplay flow.
Yeah, there are obviously several ideas on like how to do it. Like, please don't quote me on any of this. This is just like examples. Like, for instance, adding different kinds of scrap and then you have to hunt them like in Monster Hunter, something like that. Like something completely off the park. Like, is the kind of change that is possible, but should we do it? And even if we do it, even if we should, is the kind like the whole game is already based on one way, which doesn't mean we won't change it. Of course, we, as you guys know, we are more than happy to change lots of things in our game.
Yeah.
But it's not even though it's is very high priority, is in a long-term high priority in which there's a long process of analyzing and seeing what we can do and what would changes affect.
I think the simple thing is like there's too much fish to fry. There's more.
Yeah.
Right now, we're working on some other stuff, and we're gonna get to that stuff. So yeah.
And as far as like logi and building and stuff works, it is totally functional as far as the game is concerned. I think that's
one logi change though, which I know a lot of people think is going to be a big deal, and maybe it won't be. But trucks have twice as much health now, so there's that. Everyone, I thought it was a big deal.
I think it's a big deal,
and everyone was like, "That's nothing." And okay,
I think it's going to end up being a big deal.
I guess we'll see if it's nothing or not. But cool.
Whoops, that's the wrong camera. So this has been a technical stream, but if you guys have any final words, we can kind of end the stream for today.
Well, catch us if you're watching this on YouTube. Catch us on Twitch, twitch.tv/foxholegame, every 2 weeks on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. EST. So you can ask questions live.
And yeah,
Join us on Discord.
Join us in Discord. Look forward to 013 update coming, North-South Conquest, anti-tank rifle, and we'll see all that fun stuff in the next week.
Yep.
Cool.
As soon as the war wraps up. So finish the war.
Finish the war and you get your update.
Finish the fight.
That's the
Come on.
motivation.
All right.
All right, as always, stay
Oh,
foxy.
come on.
Everybody groans. It's got... Anyway.